Marcus had walked down Maple Street 1,000 times before. Every day after school, past the coffee shop, the bookstore, and the old bakery that smelled of cinnamon and fresh bread. He knew every crack in the sidewalk, every storefront, every window display by heart. But on this particular Christmas Eve, as snow began to fall and street lights flickered to life, something was different, something impossible. There, between Miller's Hardware and the Vintage Record Shop, stood a store that Marcus knew, with absolute certainty, had not existed that morning. Its wooden sign swayed gently in the winter breeze, hand-carved letters spelling out a name that sent shivers down his spine. Geppetto's, open one night only. The windows glowed with a warm, golden light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. And inside, Marcus could swear he saw something moving, something that shouldn't be possible. The door opened before Marcus could even turn the handle. It swung inward on silent hinges, releasing a wave of warmth that carried the scent of pine wood, old leather, and something else, something like cinnamon and stardust mixed together. Marcus stepped inside, his footsteps echoing on ancient wooden floorboards. The shop was impossibly larger on the inside than it had appeared from the street. Shelves stretched up toward a ceiling lost in shadow, each one crowded with toys that seemed to watch him with curious, gleaming eyes. At the far end of the shop, hunched over a cluttered workbench beneath a single hanging lamp, an elderly figure worked with careful, practiced movements. His white hair caught the lamplight like spun silver, and his hands, though weathered and aged, moved with the precision of a master craftsman. The toy maker says, "Oh, Marcus, you're right on time. I've been waiting 60 years for you to walk through that door." Marcus froze. His name. This stranger knew his name. But that wasn't the strangest part. 60 years? That was impossible. That was exactly how long it had been since his great-grandfather had disappeared without a trace one Christmas Eve in 1964. How could this old toy maker possibly know about that? And what did Marcus have to do with a mystery from decades before he was even born? When the toy maker finally turned around, Marcus felt the floor tilt beneath his feet. The face looking back at him, aged and weathered, lined with decades of solitude, was unmistakably familiar. It was the same face from the photographs in his grandmother's old albums. The same gentle eyes. The same slight smile. This man, this impossibly old man, was Thomas Harrison, Marcus's great-grandfather. The man who had vanished on Christmas Eve 1964, leaving behind a young wife, a baby daughter, and a mystery that had haunted their family for 3 generations. Thomas told him everything. How he discovered this shop on another Christmas Eve, exactly like Marcus had. How he'd been given a choice, a terrible, beautiful choice. The shop existed between moments, between Christmases, trapped in a single, endless night, creating toys imbued with real magic. Toys that could comfort lonely children. Toys that could bring hope to the hopeless. Toys that could make wishes come true. But the magic demanded a price. A toy maker had to remain bound to the shop, creating wonder year after year after year. Alone, always alone, until another soul, with a gift, appeared to take their place. Thomas led Marcus through the shop, showing him the creations of 6 decades. A teddy bear that could sense when children were sad and would somehow find its way to them, offering the perfect hug at the perfect moment. A wooden train that traveled through dreams, taking sick children on adventures while they slept in hospital bed. A music box that played melodies of hope so pure they could chase away the darkest despair. Each toy was a small miracle. Each one bore the mark of endless love and infinite loneliness. And then Thomas asked the question that Marcus had been dreading since the moment of recognition. "You have a gift, Marcus. I can see it in the way you look at things, in the way your fingers twitch when you see something broken, wanting to fix it, wanting to make it better. You have the soul of a creator, the heart of a toy maker." The old man's eyes grew distant, filled with 6 decades of accumulated sorrow. "I can leave this place if someone takes my place. The magic demands a toy maker. It always has. It always will." Marcus' grandfather, also the toy maker, said to Marcus, "So I'm offering you what was offered to me. Stay here. Create magic. Bring wonder to the world. But know this. If you accept, you'll be trapped in this single night until another toy maker finds you. It could be 60 years. It could be longer. Your family will lose you forever." Marcus looked at the door. Through the frosted glass, he could see the snow falling on the street outside. His family would be gathering for Christmas Eve dinner right now. His mom would be making her famous hot chocolate. His little sister would be bouncing with excitement, unable to wait until morning. His dad would be pretending to be grumpy, while secretly being just as excited as everyone else. If he stayed, he'd never see them again, never hug his mom, never tease his sister, never grow up, never have his own family, never see another Christmas morning. But if he refused and walked away, his great-grandfather, this kind, lonely old man who had sacrificed everything for magic, would remain trapped in this endless night, forever creating, forever alone, forever paying for a choice made 60 years ago when he was barely older than Marcus was now. The clock on the wall showed 11:30. 30 minutes until midnight. 30 minutes until Christmas Day. 30 minutes to make an impossible choice.
Marcus says, "Wait, what if? What if we don't need a person at all? What if we make something? What if we create a toy that can take your place? A toy that can be the toy maker forever?"
For a moment, Thomas just stared at him. Then understanding bloomed across his ancient face like sunrise. Of course. Of course. Why hadn't he thought of it in 60 years? Because he'd been alone. Because loneliness makes you forget that problems can have more than one solution. Because sometimes it takes a child imagination to see past the rules we think we have to follow. "We'd have to build something that can create on its own," Thomas said, his voice trembling with sudden hope. "Something with enough magic to sustain the shop forever. Something with a heart." Marcus says, "Then let's build it. Together. That's what toy makers do, right?" And so, with the clock ticking down the final minutes of Christmas Eve, grandfather and great-grandson worked side by side. Hands young and old moved in perfect synchronization, creating something that had never existed before. Something impossible. They carved gears from wood that had never grown from any earthly tree. They forged springs from starlight captured in old lanterns. They wove clockwork from moments of joy collected over 60 Christmases. And at the center of it all, they crafted a heart. At 11:55, with 5 minutes remaining until midnight, they finished. In their hands held together, neither quite sure who was supporting it, rested a mechanical heart the size of an apple. It was more beautiful than anything Marcus had ever seen. Golden gears turned within crystalline chambers. Tiny springs pulsed like veins carrying light instead of blood. And at its core, something warm and alive and infinitely kind glowed with steady, eternal radiance. Together, they placed in the center of a large wooden framework. They constructed a model of the shop itself in miniature, every detail perfect. The moment the heart touched the framework, everything changed. The model began to breathe. The tiny doors opened and closed. Miniature tools moved on their own, creating even tinier toys. It was alive, not in the way a person is alive, but in the way magic is alive, purposeful, joyful, eternal. And then the shop itself understood. The walls began to glow with golden light that spread like dawn breaking. Every toy on every shelf lifted slightly, suspended in wonder. The very air seemed to sing with possibility. The shop was becoming what it had always been meant to be, not a prison requiring a warden, but a living entity of pure creation. A place that could make magic forever without needing anyone trapped inside. Thomas began to solidify. For 60 years he'd been half real, stuck between moments. Now he was becoming fully human again. Thomas catching up with him not cruelly, but gently, giving him back the years he'd lost. At precisely midnight, as Christmas Eve became Christmas Day, Marcus and Thomas stepped out of the shop together. The moment their feet touched the snowy sidewalk, the shop behind them shimmered like a reflection in disturbed water and vanished. Not destroyed, not gone, simply returning to the space between moments where it had always belonged, where it would always be, creating magic for those who needed it most. The bells of the old church 3 blocks away began to ring out, welcoming Christmas. That night, Marcus's family received an impossible gift. His great-grandmother, now 93 years old, opened her door to find her husband standing on the porch. Not as the old man he should have been, but as the young man she'd lost 60 years ago. Time had been kind in the end. It had given him back exactly as she remembered him. The explanation could wait. The questions could wait. For now, there was only reunion, only family, only love finding its way home after decades lost in magic. That Christmas, Marcus learned the greatest lesson a toymaker or anyone can learn. Some problems don't have easy answers. Some choices seem impossible because we're only seeing 2 paths when 3 exist. And sometimes, just sometimes, the solution isn't sacrifice. It isn't choosing who gets hurt. It's imagination. It's creativity. It's refusing to accept that someone must lose for someone else to win. His great-grandfather had saved countless children with magic. But in the end, it was Marcus who saved him. Not with magic, but with something even more powerful. A child's absolute refusal to accept that good people must suffer for good things to exist.